Hi, Phyllis here from southernfrugal.com. Today we're going to make some fruitcake cookies, or Christmas cookies I call them. And this is a recipe I've used over the years. I don't even know where I got the recipe, and I've sort of altered the fruit to suit what I like. Now, I like a lot of nuts in the fruitcake cookies, so I just kind of altered those, and really with this recipe you can alter it any which way you want to. A lot of people put dates in their cookies, all kinds of stuff, dried figs, everything. So you can really put anything you want, just keep the ounces sort of the same for the different fruits. So first thing we're going to do is mix up the fruit. Now I used 8 ounces of, let's see what was in this one. This was pineapple, just this little carton, 8 ounces of the pineapple. And I used the scissors to snip those little pieces into 3 little pieces, just because we're doing the cookies and I want them smaller. And I also did the cherries. Now, I did green cherries because they had sold out of the red cherries. So it's 8 ounces in this little carton. And by the way, I saved those little cartons. They work great for things like orange zest, lime zest, lemon zest. Anyway, I saved those little cartons. So anyway, so now I also snipped my cherries in half. And to this, 8 ounces of snipped pineapple, 8 ounces of cherries that I cut in half, and also I'm going to add, this would be 8 ounces of chopped walnuts, and they're just roughly chopped, and also 8 ounces of my favorite pecans, and they were also chopped up. Alright, and then the only other thing I add in the way of fruit, golden raisins. And what I do with these is I go ahead and put them in the microwave, put a little water in them, and then I soften them up. So they've already cooled, so I'm going to drain the water off. And that's 1 cup of golden raisins, and I just kind of squeeze some of that water out. And then, I don't know what y'all's raisins look like, but I like to pick out any that don't look good. Now when you're using dark raisins, you can't tell whether they look good or not. You know, like that little dark one there, I take those out. And any others that I see that I don't like the looks of. Alright, that ought to be good. Alright, so I'm going to dump those in. See if I see any other little things that I don't like in there. There's one. Alright, there's one. Alright, so there's another one. That ought to do it now. Alright, so then I just mix that up with my hand. Get those all mixed in together. The nuts and the fruit. Now I'm going to put just really a couple of tablespoons of flour in that. And normally if you were doing a fruitcake, you'd kind of dredge them in flour so that the fruit wouldn't sink to the bottom. But obviously in a cookie, the fruit's not got anywhere to sink, right? So I still, though, like to dredge them a little bit. Just a couple of little tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And just sprinkle that in and mix it all around a little bit. It's not much, but just a little bit. Not much at all. Alright. Of course, that'd be much prettier if those little cherries were red, or a combination of red and green would be really pretty. But they were sold out. I guess we got a lot of people in our area making fruitcakes. Alright, so I'm going to set that aside. And we're now ready to mix up our batter. So let me get a rag and get my hand cleaned off. Alright. Now I'm really not even going to use my mixer for this, because you can really do it pretty well with just a whisk and a spatula. Alright, so we're going to start out with 2 sticks of softened butter, and that would be 1 cup of butter. And I always use salted butter. I don't know why, I just do. Alright, so we're just going to mix that around a little bit. And this is the batter for the cookies. Now I'm going to add 1/2 cup of light brown sugar. Put that right in the butter. And 1/2 cup of just regular white sugar. Put that in. And then to that I'm going to add 1 large egg. Just break that right in there. And then you just want to mix all this up. Now, what I like to do at this point is go ahead and add my spices in. Now, we're going to use cardamom. That gives a sort of a little bit of a lemony flavor. Ginger, ground ginger. Ground nutmeg. I think I already put my cinnamon away. See if I can find that. Oh, I don't know where my cinnamon is. Oh, there it is. Okay. And with then a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. So, 1/2 teaspoon of cardamom, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and a 1/2 teaspoon of ginger. Now I like to put that in when I've got my butter and egg, all that in. So go ahead and dump that in. Let's just start out with the spatula this time. And just mix that all in. Now while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and add in just a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Really a sparse teaspoon of salt. Alright. Now we'll just mix that around. Get that all incorporated. Now you could use a mixer at this point if you wanted to. And that butter is just barely softened. You don't want it really melted. That brown sugar mixed up in there. Alright, now I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of rum. And you can add cooking sherry, any kind of little wine you have, or you could actually use orange juice or maybe even lemon juice. But I'm going to go ahead and use the rum. Now this is the same bottle of rum we've had. I guess this is the 3rd year on it. So, alright, so 2 tablespoons of rum. Alright, that ought to be enough liquid in there that I can mix this up with the whisk now. Just mix that all in. Now, of course, all the rum will evaporate when the cookies are being cooked, but it'll leave behind some of that nice flavor. Alright, now we're going to go ahead now and also add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Alright, so now we got this, so we're able to mix this up pretty well. And again, you could use your electric mixer here. I just think it's easier to use the whisk rather than messing up my mixer. Alright, so that ought to do it. Just mix that in, scrape the sides of the bowl a little bit. Alright, now we're ready to add our dry ingredients. And what you're going to need is 2 2/3 cups of all-purpose flour. Now you can use cake flour or whatever, but just don't use the self-rising. You just want to use regular all-purpose flour. And I do use white lily for my baking most of the time when it's to do with cakes and that kind of thing. Alright, half a teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, and I see I've got my salt in here and I've already added salt, so that would be a mistake. Alright, so I've got my flour in the sifter now. I sifted the flour before I measured it. Then I measured it, and now I'm going to sift it again. So I'm going to see if I can get that baking powder and the baking soda out of this little dish, because I've already added my salt, so I don't need that salt for sure. My mistake. Alright, so now I'm just going to sift these together, the baking soda, and baking powder. Two different things, okay? Alright, so I'm just going to sift this flour into this little bowl here. And that just makes it a lot easier when you start mixing up the cookies. Alright, there we go. All done. Alright, so now we need to mix this flour into my butter and egg and spice mixture. So I'm going to stuff about half of that in. And it's going to make a pretty stiff batter. Alright, going to dump the rest of that flour all the way in now. Mix it all around. And this is not like a cake batter, it's a cookie batter, so it's going to definitely be a lot stiffer than a cake batter would be. And also, when you sift that flour, now of course this flour has been sifted 2 times, that way you make sure you don't really have any lumps. It makes it much easier to mix it in. And you don't have to do a lot of thorough mixing here, and certainly the mixer wouldn't work because this is much too stiff a batter for a mixer. You just want to, get that flour wet with something here. Alright, so this is good enough. Got that flour incorporated. And I'll just show you all the way I do this just to make it easier. I'm going to be using my hands. Now here's my fruit and nut mixture. And I'm dumping this batter right into that. Getting it all in. Now, when you start mixing this together, there really isn't any way to do it other than just stick your hands in there and start mixing it up. Set that bowl aside. Alright, so there's my batter on top of all the fruits and nuts. So now I'm going to start mixing that batter, and got to use your hands on this. You want everything good and coated with the batter. Alright, about got it that quick. Turn it over and make sure everything's thoroughly mixed. Now, notice I mixed the nuts and all the fruit pretty thoroughly before I added the batter to them. But you just want to make sure you got batter on all these nuts and the fruit. Alright, now at this point, a lot of people, cool theirs in the refrigerator, and you could do that, but I don't really have the patience for that. Okay, I've got to wash my hands off, and we're going to put this on the cookie sheets. Let's see if I can figure out how to cut my camera off. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I kind of cleaned up my area just a little bit, but we're ready to start baking these cookies now. Now I've got the 2 baking sheets. By the way, these are those shiny stainless steel jelly roll pans, and of course I use them as cookie sheets. I've lined them with my hand's wet, lined them with parchment paper, and I'm going to go ahead and put the cookies on both sheets, even though my oven will only hold 1 of these at a time. I've got a very small oven because we were downsizing several years ago. Of course, I wish I had my big oven now, but anyway, we're going to go ahead and put them on these sheets. Now, I just use what's really a soup spoon because most recipes say drop them by the teaspoonful, but I like mine a little bigger than that. So what I'm going to do is just put them on there, and that's really pretty well a tablespoon. You don't want to mash them down, just leave them, standing up tall. And we're going to bake these at 350 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll check them and see how they're looking. You want them to just barely be brown around the edges. Alright, so it looks like I can get 8 of these on one of these cookie sheets. There you go. Alright, and see, I'm leaving them piled up like that because they'll shrink down. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and fill this second cookie sheet up too, jelly roll pan. And the reason I do that is because when I open the oven, I take one out and put one in. That way I don't have to open the oven, 2 different times. All right, let's see if we can't get 8 on this one. Now I don't think these will run together, but if they do, be all right. We won't even worry about it. Now these cookies freeze very, very well, but they also will keep very well in a cookie jar for several weeks. I mean, if they last that long, they will keep. You don't have to worry about them going bad. All right. Now we're ready to put one of these pans in the oven, again 350 degrees, which I've already preheated my oven. So I'm going to go ahead and cook these, and when we take the first pan out, we'll have a look at it. Alright, so we'll be back. Alright, here's the first batch of cookies that have come out of the oven. Now I'm baking these, I don't know if you can see that or not, these are my new baking sheets, and previously when I made these cookies, the baking sheet, of course, was the darker. So baking on these jelly roll pans with these cookies, it takes 25 minutes for them to cook and get just lightly brown. And also I had to cook them on the lower rack, which is fine with me. But you want to let them cool on the sheet 2 or 3 minutes just till they firm up. Then I'm going to transfer them over and let them finish cooling on my little racks here. So I'm going to go ahead and fix the rest of these cookies, and plus in the middle of all that we need to have our lunch. So I'm going to go ahead and bake all the rest of them, and then we'll come back and see what they look like. And I really don't even know how many cookies this makes. I've never really counted them. But anyway, well, I'm going to go ahead and bake all the rest of them right after lunch. And I did put my cookie dough in the refrigerator because it's going to be a while. So anyway, when all these get done, we'll be back. See you in a little while. Hi, we're back, and we've completed baking all the cookies. Now I think this recipe is probably going to make maybe 50, even up to 60 cookies. And I want to show you what I do now. I leave them sitting on the cookie sheet when I take them out of the oven for 2 or 3 minutes, and then I transfer them over to a little rack to cool. And then once they're cool, I go ahead and put them into my cookie jar. Now I put a layer in, and then I cut out some little round sheets of wax paper and put those in between each row. And I do that so they won't stick together, because sometimes they will stick together because of all that fruit in them. But here's what I want to do. I want to give you a little tip that one of my neighbors, Elizabeth, she was an older lady, she's passed on now, but several years ago I had made some of these cookies, and put them. We had a much bigger cookie jar back then because the kids were all around and everything. And we did downsize, so I even downsized my cookie jar because no one was here but us. So anyway, she told me that if you have homemade cookies or even regular cookies and they get too hard, all you have to do is take a couple of pieces of fresh loaf bread and put them right in the top, put the lid on them, and by the next morning they're all soft again. So I can tell you that tip really worked. But now I'm not thinking these cookies are going to get hard like that. Well, they might after a couple of weeks. I don't know, but they keep very well just in the cookie jar. And any extra that I have, I just go ahead and freeze them. And even after Christmas, we like them. So anyway, I wanted to just tell you about the recipe also. I'm going to list the recipe in the description below. And the first thing I'm going to list is the actual batter, and then down below I'm going to list the fruits and nuts and all. And all you have to do to substitute anything, like for instance, say you wanted dates in yours. Well, all you'd have to do is just substitute, just keep the same ounces, but substitute whatever you want. And some people like all those mixed fruits with the citron and all that in it. And you could substitute that. Just as long as you keep the ounces the same, it'll work out perfect, okay? All right, so there are my cookies, and we're just waiting for these right here to stay on the cookie sheet a little while, and then we're going to transfer them over to this other sheet, and then once they all get cool, I'm going to put them in the little cookie jar, and then any I have left over, I'll just put in the freezer. All right, so we'll see y'all next time. Leave me comments, because I know a lot of people have recipes for these fruitcake type cookies, so leave me some comments below and tell me how you make them. That would be great. Alright, we will see y'all next time. Now I'm back. I forgot to tell y'all something. I used my new cookie sheets. These are the new ones that I ordered from Amazon, and I've got a link for these pans on my website under products I recommend. And I just wanted to share this with you. The pans these are very thick. This is actually a jelly roll pan, but I cook cookies in it. I don't know if you can see that or not. But the bottom is pretty thick. And so in my oven, I cook these on the lowest shelf. And I also use parchment paper. And these particular cookies, this recipe, that it takes 25 minutes for them to cook because of the thickness of the pan. But anyway, I'll note that in the recipe and just mention if you have a shiny stainless steel pan, the cookies need to cook 25 minutes, and they need to cook on the lowest shelf in your oven. So I just wanted to mention that. All right, I think that's everything. All right, see y'all next time.